On this episode of
How to Society,
we're going to be talking about literature. Ooh.
That bougie shit. Can I swear this early?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That bougie shit.
So, what book has influenced you the most?
the most.
And okay, so let's determine something real quick. Are we strictly talking about what format? Like, are we gonna talk about any written word?
I think so.
Okay.
Because, I mean, how many of us have really led literary classics, you know?
But I mean more like books, scrolls.
Yeah, I think anything.
Ebooks. You know.
As long as it's written word, I don't
Okay,
think
fair
why
enough.
it's not.
So, what books would you say or literature has?
There was To Kill a Mockingbird was influential for me because I never read it in school. I read it after I got out of school, and I never really understood racism. Like, I always just thought that, you know, people are people, and racism isn't a real thing and anymore, you know. Because where I grew up, it's just nobody cared, you know. And I had step-siblings who were half Mexican, half black. It's like, I never cared. They're just people. And I read the book To Kill a Mockingbird and how people were treated just in the 1940s, 50s, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, like, a guy gets accused of rape that he didn't do and gets sent to prison and then ends up killing himself because of all these things, just because of the color of his skin. And, like, just the racism that was going on back then, I just couldn't believe it. Like, it threw me for a loop. It really made me realize how the history of racism still affects people today, because it was a real thing.
It's a story that could still happen in the
Yes.
current climate.
Well,
Like, it's
yes. Yep.
How about you, Skylar?
3.5 Player's Handbook. And it's gonna, I know it sounds like a joke, but it was time that I spent with family. It made me realize more of what I want to do with my life in some weird way. And dipping into fantasy has helped me to really sort of get a better grasp on how I'm supposed to deal with things in the real world in at least a few cases. More recently, though, Patrick Rothfuss's Kingkiller Chronicles has been absolutely spectacular.
You're next in the rotation.
Oh my
So, I, through my grandpa's, my mom's dad's side of the family, am related to August Derleth.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, so he's grew up in Sauk, and there's actually a park dedicated to him there. He did a lot of poetry about Wisconsin, but from what I dug into, because I was interested and I wanted to learn more about him, was it sounds like the Cthulhu mythos.
HP.
I think somebody said that he actually ripped off, like after HP died, he like stole his work and like kept doing it. I don't know how true that is, but yeah. So I mean, I don't really have a story that actually influenced me, or any sort of literature that influenced me, because I read a lot of books. I was a super speedy reader. I had the best, like, back in elementary school you had reading levels. So I always read at the highest reading level because that's all I did in my free fucking time. So there's too many stories running through my mind and literature and stuff that I can't think of anything specific, but I'm related to a rip-off artist.
I was a late bloomer to reading. Like, I never really enjoyed it because my mind would wander off really quickly, and so I could never focus on the story. So the first book that I was able to read, you know, cover to cover, and I was like enthralled by it, was Crooked Little Bane by God, now I forgot his name. Hold on. Let me see if I can see it. That's gonna bother me.
I see a Naruto book.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the author now. I'll think of it.
Is it a picture book?
Yes, it's a picture
Okay.
book. Anyway, it's a modern noir story, so it's a detective story, but it deals with the seedy underbelly of the world. So, like, the weirdest shit you've never heard of, hopefully. You don't want to know about this shit.
Right.
Is all delved into in this book in very gruesome details.
It's very
And so,
graphic.
it is, you see the shit he's talking about.
Gotcha.
And it's not things you want to know about.
Right.
So that made a huge impact in me, not so much because of the content, but the way that you could make somebody visualize something through writing. Like, the way he conveyed
Yes.
it all. It was so... I hate to say it like gory, but it's not gory. It's like, it was just unadulterated...
Detailed.
No, it was just like right there,
Gotcha.
nothing hidden, no pretense, it just like splat.
Gotcha.
And so that made me want to read more, and so I've been reading since. As far as classics, the only classic that I've read that I loved was The Old Man and the Sea. Is that the right
I don't think
name?
so.
It's
Moby Dick, gotcha.
no.
Yeah, that's,
Um,
that's all I can think. Moby Dick. Okay.
Oh my god, I can't do my authors today. It is by dude that was he was a journalist during the Spanish American War.
Okay.
Big guy, smoked cigars, drank a lot, beat his wife.
That was most of them.
Yes, that is a lot of writers.
Oh my god, he's like one of the bigs though. He's
Ulysses S. Grant.
no. Oh man,
So,
Mhm.
two things I want to say about literature, and I forgot the first one. Oh, no, the concept of in writing.
Ernest Hemingway,
Oh, okay, yes.
The Old Man and the Sea.
Okay.
So it's basically a story about this old guy who goes out fishing and catches a marlin and it's the struggle between a man and
how he
a
loves
beast, and how he does love it because it's that mortal strife where there's no hatred there. It's pure love for the trade, for the action. Like, it's like not only does the fish almost kill the guy, he also needs the fish to be able to survive. So it's like, it's this incredible struggle, and it also shows life in those times and puts a lot of things in perspective.
So, like you had mentioned, the thing that I love about writing is how the writer can make you see a completely different perspective, or like make you see things that you yourself can't imagine, and the detail they go into with even being able to see what the characters are thinking and how they process, and I love that about books because they're so detailed and in depth. But I will say that I feel in today's generation, literature has really gone from books to more video games and movies, because that is how we consume stories now. We consume them through literally playing a video game where you get to be somebody else, and watching movies where you get to watch other people's experiences. And I think that going forward in the future, that is going to be our more classical literature, is going to be movies and video games. It's not going to be books.
Warren Ellis is the author for Crooked Little Game.
Okay. But my favorite author of today is Brandon Sanderson. He has this huge mythos, and all of his books are interconnected. He has a new book coming out in November, which I cannot wait to read. I'm so excited. And it's just incredible. The amount of detail people can put into their worlds and their different magic systems and all these things, it is incredible to me. And like, where does that creative genius for these books come from? You know, it's
So,
incredible.
I think there's different. So I've actually read a couple articles on that, because that seems to be something everybody's wondering. Like, every famous author gets asked, "How did you write this?" And for the most part, it's one of those where it's like, I don't know. Like,
Well, yeah.
I don't think they might have some formulae they use to start off, but the muse, it's kind of a out of body thing that
Yes.
happens. Now, I also know that a lot of people use it as a coping mechanism. Like, they create these worlds to live in to escape from
Yes.
their own reality or shitty or whatever, And so they just put it to paper, and you get to be part of their world.
Well, and that is one thing I've done. Like, I've written some short stories and things, like nothing that's ever gone anywhere, but I just do it for fun. And it is interesting that when you're writing, it's like the characters, you start off with a rough design of what the character's going to be, but they define themselves. Like, the scenarios come, and it's like you're just writing down what's happening. Like, it is odd how it's like...
So
I don't
usually,
know where it comes from.
in that case, is usually because you've already have an idea of what your character's like, and you're
Right.
just doing it
Exactly.
subconsciously.
Yes.
However, other people don't do it that way. Some people do actually like use formula for character types. I mean, there's entire. It's called the Hero's Quest.
Yep.
So it's basically Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
What is the other famous? Jesus Christ. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all the heroes. The mytho. I can't
The
remember what
mythos, yep.
it's got a
The
name.
hero's journey.
Yes, the hero's journey. And so if you break it down, it has an actual formula to it, and you can put a lot of very famous books into that formula, like step by step.
Yes, and there is so this guy Brandon Sanderson. One thing he talks about is so he writes a lot of fantasy, and he's like, I got so sick of all fantasies based on a peasant boy who finds out he's special and goes on a quest and becomes a hero. He's like, no, I didn't want that. I wanted just another person who's doing their thing and living in this world. And he's like, and that's what I really wanted to show, and he does, and it's incredible.
So I might like his books because I do agree with that a lot. I hate the fact that you always happen to be following the hero. It's like, I want to know what that dude who we heard about
Yes.
on chapter 3 for one moment is actually doing for a
Yeah.
living. So a great example of that, there's, oh my god, now I'm not going to remember anything. So there's a book, it's called Moog World. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's Moog World. And so it opens up with this guy who just graduated from wizard school. Like, it's his first day. He's officially a wizard. Their school gets attacked and he gets killed. Like, first chapter, and then he's summoned back by a necromancer, and so he's now this basically zombie in this necromancer's army, and so he's just a little piece of the gear in this massive story. But it's like, okay.
Spoiler alert.
No, it's no.
I think if you guys like that, you might like. So in one book that it's a part of a trilogy, but I only read one of the books, like the first one of it, and it's by Jonathan Stroud, and it's called The Amulet of Samarkand, and it's called the Bartimaeus trilogy. So basically,
I've heard the name, but I've never.
So, a quick, synopsis, rundown of the story is basically it's an alternate fantasy place with magic and demons and wizards, magicians, if you will, and this kid was an apprentice for a wizard, and he went to a party with his master, and one of the wizards there were just treated him like shit, so he went and stole his amulet and summoned this djinn and did the spell correctly and now has control over this mythical creature, and there's a bunch of fights in it, war, kind of almost like a war, and it does dive somewhat into real world history. Wasn't there a Battle of Prague?
I have no idea.
No idea.
I don't know.
I could be wrong on that then. But either way, that was interesting. And when I read, especially a story like that, it took me almost a week to read the entire story. Not because it was lengthy, but because when I dive into a world like that, it plays like a video in my mind.
Yes.
So I'm reading a page, and that's all I'm thinking about is the scenery and what this person looks like, what that person looks like. And then, I gotta go back and read that page again because
Yes.
all I'm thinking about is that.
Yep.
And then I go on next. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. That is my favorite part, is being able to see those videos in your head.
Yeah.
Because, and it's just so incredible because unlike with the medium of television or video games, you get to imagine what everything is like. And it is so incredible. I don't know. I love it. Books that influenced me when I was younger were Aragon and Twilight. I know those are stupid, but I reread those.
Wait. So you enjoyed Twilight and you didn't question whether you were gay?
I know. Like I said, there's several things I should have noticed. I
feel like that's a giant red flag.
I read Twilight.
I'm sorry, that's a giant pink flag.
I read
a sparkly pink flag.
A story between necrophilia and bestiality.
Oh, okay. First of all, she should have chosen Jacob because he was way
We
hotter.
are not talking about...
Okay,
I know it's
I would just
literature,
like
but
to
we
say-
are not talking
just
about
like to say.
Twilight.
Anyway, but no, I reread the Twilight Saga, like, constantly. I loved those books.
That was a sign.
Yes, it was a sign. But, even books like that, because like you said, I mean, it gave me an outlet in a world where I couldn't be who I wanted to be. It gave me an outlet that I could read this book and be like, this is incredible. Like, you know, I get to be a little,
So-
sparkly and flamboyant and
The gayest thing that I enjoyed was Interview with the Vampire.
no, I don't think I've ever.
Oh, you should just read anything from Anne Rice.
Okay.
It's gay as fuck, but it's very well done.
Gay as fuck. I like it already.
Gays and happiness.
Oh, and then
not
the
penetration.
movie adaptation. I don't think it's gayer, but it's pretty gay. I mean, it's got Brad Pitt. Who is it? No, it's Tom Cruise isn't in. For some reason, I'm thinking Tom Cruise, but he's not in that. It's like Brad Pitt, somebody else.
Well, I would hope that there'd be more than one actor in a movie.
Hold on.
Brad Pitt.
Now I need to look this up.
Brad Pitt plays all the characters.
But the point is that it's a very traditional vampire movie. However, there is a lot of sexual tension between the dudes. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, I'm watching that. Well, what was I gonna say? Oh, you know what? What genre of literature?
Yeah, it is Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is overrated. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
but,
right,
like,
but you gotta put it back in the time when it came out, which was 1994.
wow.
That was
So,
before he was a dude.
If you're talking about, you have a movie that has Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Christian Slater, who else was in it? Those. What's this face?
Lots of those.
You can go on IMDb if you want the full list,
Yes.
by the way.
Anywho, but the point is, like, it was a lot of big celebrities for the time that were all considered to be some of the most handsome people,
Gotcha.
and there is a lot of weird, like, what's going on here?
So, okay, are we watching this movie after we're done here? I mean, anyway. One genre that really needs to be revamped is the romantic, like, sex genre that women read, because there's no fucking story. They're all terrible.
Yeah.
I have tried to read them, and it's like, what are you women doing? Like, this is worse than pornography, in my opinion, because it's just senseless.
At least porn admits it and, like, knows that they're not gonna fix the sink.
Oh, step bro, my hand got caught. What did it get caught on? You're in a dryer.
Oh no, you shouldn't be swimming without a lifeguard. Lifeguard, I'm in the bathtub. Oh no, he's
Yes.
drowning. No, I'm not.
Well, I was having a conversation with a friend about the romance genre, and so what we think today as a romance genre isn't really what it used to be.
Yes.
Romance used to be a lot more bloody and painful and not as girly as it's
Well,
become.
the Hallmark.
Like,
Yeah,
romance
really
was
ruined
the
it.
main genre back in the day.
Right. Well, I mean, you think even about Shakespeare, a lot of his are considered these love classics, and it's like, so a classic of what love is a girl, tries to kill her, or acts like she's gonna kill himself, the guy kills himself, she wakes up and kills herself, like, so a double suicide, that's what romance is?
Yeah, pretty much in a nutshell.
Well, I mean, if you're looking back at those, most things can be basically trumped up to, is it a comedy or is it a tragedy?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. And you know, that's really where literature started, was with the Greeks when they did their plays and stuff, you know? That was a big part of their society.
I think one of my favorite romances is actually just basically one of the plots in the Iliad.
Okay.
And it's basically just like, hey, yo, Achilles, I'm your boyfriend Patroclus. I'm gonna put on your armor to make sure our men have high morale.
Yep.
And think that you're out there.
Yes, and then yep.
And then, spoiler alert, but it's a really old book. You should probably read it. By now.
Spoiler alert for a 2,000-year-old book.
And obviously that's gonna lead to some more shit. But the Iliad, it's not really, you know, a happy book.
Yeah.
Yes, that is.
But it is a classic.
Yes, and it is good. Like, even so we had to read it in high school, and even though a lot of the students had a hard time understanding it, but because I grew up in a culture that the Bible was the main text you studied, it was actually really easy for me to read, because a lot of times what they do is they tell you something, describe the thing, tell you it again, and then they move on. But it's like a lot of people get confused by that. Like, what are they doing? It's like, no, they're still describing this one part. Like, you know.
Yeah, the only classic tale, I haven't actually read the Iliad. I probably should get to that, but the only classic that I've actually attempted to read was the Epic of Gilgamesh, but I fell asleep.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever read that one.
Oh, come on, nobody got the joke?
Gilgamesh fell asleep, didn't he?
That's what it was about.
Nice.
That was dumb.
Fuck you! It was wonderful!
Nobody got it, so it wasn't funny.
Somebody, hopefully.
Yeah,
got
somebody
it.
hopefully laughed.
But it is interesting how literature expanded from... Well, you think about the Greeks, they had a lot of different stories that weren't necessarily a part of their mythos, but most of them were part of their mythos when it comes to Iliad, Odyssey. Even a lot of their plays were based on some of their mythology. And you have the Oedipal, the guy who, you know, kills his dad, sleeps with his mom.
Oedip.
Oedipus Rex.
Yes.
Oedipus. Okay, yes. Yeah, because then you have the Oedipus complex.
Yes.
So you have all those stories, and it's interesting how it went from that to then literature really just became religious, especially during the time of Christianity. That's all literature was religion. Mm-hmm. And then we have been able to expand to this point with Shakespeare and different things where we were able to go back and create our own stories.
Mm-hmm.
During the expansion of Christianity, first off, not a lot was written before from, you know, like the Norse side of things for myth. It was mostly oral tradition, but the few pieces that did survive were definitely marked by Christianity in a big way.
Yeah, they burned pretty much all their literature and then kind of rewrote the stuff they saved, or they saved certain parts of it that would be all like, oh wow, look at the similarities between our religions. You guys are probably just Christian. Come with us.
Yeah, and the fact that it was basically turned into like a conversion tool.
Yes. Yeah.
You lose a lot of
Well,
what
and
was there.
a lot of the surviving stuff that we have too has basically, you can only find it now in fantasy, like, you know, with the Celts, however you want to pronounce it, had a lot of stuff with the Fae and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so,
yeah, and that's okay. So I have these two books based on Irish literature, and it is so interesting. Their concepts of fairies and ghosts and elves, leprechauns, all those kinds of things. Like, these are real myths that these people believed. You know, like, they're not just these. Oh, it's like, no, these are real things, and it's so interesting going through all those tales. And yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, how late into like the timeline did people just believe that like my kid's off? They're obviously a changeling. That was that.
Yes.
Yep.
And the thing I love about the books is it combines the traditional Irish stories with more modern ones, so you can see the change between traditional Irish thoughts and paganism, and as it transitions into Christianity, and how those ideas of their paganism still influence their Christianity.
So, what I've the way you can usually tell the big difference is if the names are in Gaelic, you're usually talking about old history, and then when it starts getting very Roman sounding names,
Yes.
you've already
Yes.
gone past anything.
And Chad.
And I would try and say a couple of names I know, but I can't pronounce the Gaelic to save my life. But
Yeah.
they are very long and names. Yeah. Yeah, no. So, literature in modern society. What role do you think it should be playing or is playing?
I feel like it's still playing the part that literature has played throughout the ages, and that is people will be able to look back at it and see the definition of what people thought was to be upheld and what was to be shunned during this current stage. But there's a lot of different types of people and a lot of different opinions.
And now we're all connected.
Yeah, publication is
Yeah.
a lot easier than it
Yeah.
used to be.
Well, but I mean,
Yeah.
even look at how. So I think some of the literature that has affected our culture today is like Lord of the Rings, like even C.S. Lewis. That's more from a Christian standpoint because he was a Christian author. Like those fantasy books have so become ingrained in American culture that it's like, yeah, you can mention Gandalf, and it might be because of the movies, but everybody kind of knows who that is.
Yeah.
But you also look at when they did turn them into the movies, it became a lot less about what trees they saw along the way.
Yeah.
And
Yes. That is, so Tolkien's, one thing that I had such a hard time with Tolkien is he describes everything. Like, the blankets and the pillows, it's like, oh my god, dude.
Never read anything from this steampunk genre then.
Did
God, did they
yes,
go
I
into outrageous amount of...
I can imagine.
Like, they
brass
go...
pipe with a brass fit.
Like, the buttons, the brass buttons on the black trench coat that was intricately... You know, it's like... I swear to God, an entire page about a coat.
Yeah, I'm more about the story. Most of the times when I come into situations like that, I know I'll get bored and I just skim through it until I get to something else.
Yeah.
Because here's my problem is I can't take their imagery and put it in my head. My head's already going to play its own imagery, so I was like, I just need the story, okay?
So there's a lot about it where it's like... There's a concept in writing where it's like you show, not tell. And so literally what these people are doing is telling you what is there.
Yes.
Whereas if you were doing it correctly, you basically allude to it and your mind will
Yes.
fill in the blank.
Yep. And that is the artistic part of it that I love is that so like, and that's why I love talking about books that people have read. So like two people read a book and you can talk about it and they're like, oh, well, I took this to mean that, and they're like, whoa, I took it completely different, or I imagined it completely opposite. And it is so awesome how you can have two different opinions on the same passage. And I mean, you know, you can say that about the Bible and things too, but that's religion and becomes a weird thing in and of itself. But our ability to interpret what we read in our own way is incredible to me.
So what is your view on people who look down on people who don't read books? And there's two sides of that coin. There's the people who look down on people who don't read books at all, and then there's the ones that look down on people who read ebooks or any modern, you know, that's not an actual paper book.
Yes, I think I used to be a person who would be all like, ebooks are stupid, and then I got books on my phone. I can store a shit ton of books on here and read them anytime I want, pull them up, highlight, do whatever I want. It is so much more convenient instead of having to lug around 15 books. My other thing about people who don't read at all, I would honestly have to say that I just don't think they've ever gotten into it, because I think anybody who wants to read can really find something that really, you know, is inspiring to them. But then you also have reading disabilities, which is a real problem. You know, even I struggle with a very, very small amount of dyslexia, but it's mostly with numbers. I get very confused when it comes to numbers. So it can be hard to read, but it is such an adventure that I would say it is so worth it.
Now, when we say people who don't read, we're just talking about they don't read books, right?
Yeah.
So I was gonna say people who say they don't read are liars because you have to read shit on Facebook.
Well, I have met somebody in today's day and age who worked in Foundry who was completely illiterate. Like, had to have somebody.
Yeah, you have
write-
your literacy, but
And then here's the thing though. But you were just saying that people who don't read books is because they've never tried it. What's so wrong about people who just use other mediums?
I mean that is fine, and that's okay. I don't mind that, but I think that the books are so much more in depth and so much more interesting that if anybody actually read an interesting book, they'd realize, oh, this is actually a way better medium than even videos or video games. As fun as those are, just how you get to read what's in people's heads or what's going on in the true instances, it is so much more interesting when it's put in a book because there's no time limit they're trying to get down, you know? They're just
there's
trying
usually
to
a
tell the story.
age limit.
Yes, but I mean, they are just trying to tell the story, and if they don't finish it, they can make another book.
So, don't get me wrong, I agree. However, that still doesn't detract from other mediums. I mean, you could still get the general idea from a very well-made movie.
Right, but it comes down to the concept of, I guess, do you want kind of a vague idea, or do you really want to be in that world?
That's the thing, though, is so I love movies, like properly done movies.
Yes.
And
Cinematography?
is an art form all to itself.
Yes.
Being able to capture an idea in in that frame is outrageously difficult. Just telling a story through that medium, it's way more complicated than people think. Most people think it's just you pick up a camera and shoot, and then you get shit like the thing we watched the other day on that horrible, crappy homemade movie.
Yes.
So it's like it's an entire art form all to itself, and if it's done correctly, I feel like it can reach the same levels. Not to mention the idea of you just mentioned about how you can in the book you can also know what the person's thinking. Well, that's been done in movies and TV shows very successfully. The best example that I can quote for a TV show, Sherlock.
Yeah.
With the text
Yeah,
messages.
you're right.
That idea, when I first saw it, I was like, holy shit.
And
the
now,
floating text.
Yes, now that medium is everywhere, like in a lot of newer
But
shows.
it, like that was like holy
Yes.
shit moment. And now you have so it's nothing new but the mini series.
Yes.
So The Witcher.
I think Game of Thrones is the best one.
But the
that
point
we
is
can reference.
it's really a movie.
Yes.
But it's expanded into a series because, like a book, it takes more time than the format allows for.
I will definitely agree that in today's media age, it is becoming a lot easier for people to really do exactly what I was talking about. You don't need to so much worry about the time limit because you're going to have a series and you can make a new season. But I think the problem with that is that it's so based on funding that sometimes they don't get to complete the story or finish it. And that is what I love about
Then you
books.
get Firefly.
Yes. Oh my God, Firefly. And Nathan Fillion. I'm sorry, but oh my God, that man. I have loved Firefly since the moment I saw it, and it's always. Oh God, I wish they would have canceled that.
Would you guys consider fan fiction to be a part of literature?
Yeah, definitely.
I was hoping that I could lay a perfectly laid trap to spring onto you. Dante's Inferno, which is just fan fiction that got published.
Well, not just that. Dante's Inferno is fan fiction that the church canonized.
Yeah.
Well,
Literally, the idea of hell came from Dante's Inferno. There was no concept of hell until he put it in a book. And then the church...
Was it Tolstoy?
No, Dante Alighieri.
Okay.
And so he literally wrote what he thought hell would be like in the imagery, the whole concept. The church's like,
I like that.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it that way before, but yeah, you're right. Like Dante's Inferno, it really was fan fiction. Like a religious fan fiction.
And Virgil was there, and he was so cool.
I know. Well, and then so I studied Dante's Inferno in a class. I don't remember what class it was, and the biggest thing that they talked about is, what kind of mindset that Dante was he in to make the last level of hell for those who are who betrayed? Like, who hurt you?
Who hurt you? One thing I love about so a lot of comics are becoming more common in the United States, and they're mangas are big in Japan and stuff, and that is its own literary form. And so my ex and her friends are reading this story about Persephone and Hades, but it's a comic version that's a little more modernized, but it's still staying true to the story of Persephone and Hades. And it is so cool being able to see a whole new generation who hated history learning about Greek mythos and those kinds of things. Like, yes, you are taking something that is so important to culture and bringing it forward to the future for people to consume. And that is what I love about written word and things like that, is that you can take any idea and make it so people want to read it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at the Bible. That's a fanfic.
Yeah, fanfic of Jesus, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Expanding on comics, webcomics have become very
Yes.
big.
Mm-hmm.
And
Talk about labor of love.
Yes.
Most of them don't make, advertisement money, but that's merch.
that keeps the website up.
Yeah, and sometimes barely. So,
but then you have people falling in love with the story who will pay. It's like, no, you know what? I'm going to pay for this extra pass because I want to support you.
If you want to see something where every page you can tell has been hours of labor, Kill a Billion Demons. Or Kill 6 Billion Demons. Not a billion. Sorry. I lowballed it. Kill 6 Billion Demons. There are expanded out shots where you can tell where the characters are because there's some focus on it, but you've got all these different sort of odd geometric shapes that are filled with crowds of unique people and things. And
so it's art, basically.
It's essentially an art book that has some word bubbles in it.
Gotcha.
And the story, it doesn't slack either. It's just that every page somehow goes to this crazy extreme.
I used to read a webcomic, not to that level, but that level of involvement in the art. It was called, it is called Gone with the Blast Wave. And so it's this post-apocalyptic war where they're still fighting in the rubble. And nobody knows why they're fighting, so it's more of a comedy, like satire of war. But the art is beautiful. It's like, it's so complex for 4 panels of something stupid, but it's like incredibly well done. And the part that was always sad is that this dude was doing it for the shits and giggles, so it's like, usually it's like, next one will happen when it happens. So it's like, you'd go years without anything, and then all of a sudden there'd be a new one.
So I've always had a hard time getting into long form comics or mangas or whatever. Like, I don't know why, but it just the pictures distract me for some reason, and I don't feel like I get the whole story. Like, I'm like, okay, why was that said? But then when I can read the book, I just love it because you get so much more out of it. And it's funny because I know there's people who are the complete opposite. Like, they can't understand the books, but then you get a manga or a comic and they're like, oh, this makes a lot more sense to me.
Gotcha.
I enjoy people who will read a manga all the way through and then they'll watch the anime of it and they absolutely hate it.
Yes.
And I'm just like, but isn't it the same thing? No, you don't understand. It's not the same thing.
Yes.
I'm like,
yes.
I don't read manga. I'll just watch the anime. And sure, I'm probably missing things. Just like with anything. Like with Harry Potter, you watch movies and they cut a bunch of shit out because they have that timeline. But
the problem here, and if you really want to get into that circle jerk, because that's all it is. Literally, here's how the distribution happens. It's originally a story, unless it was originally a manga. But a lot of the time, it's originally a story that somebody turns into a manga, and then somebody else takes that manga and makes it into an anime. So by the time you're watching the anime, sometimes it's so far from the original that. Yeah, I can see that. But again, it's a circle jerk because it's each one of them is its own new entity. So
well, and I mean, and you have you have that even with so like the Lord of the Ring books. You read the books; they're completely different from, well, not completely, but very different from the movies. Even Game of Thrones, that series, different from the books. It's like, and a lot of people get irritated with it, but it's like you gotta take them as two separate things. Like they're two separate art forms that you're working with.
Here's the best way that I've been able to like reconcile the fact that sometimes they're that different. So I think of Harry Potter. So I think I watched the movies before I read the books. And so when I read the books, it wasn't like, this is better. It's more like, oh, I really enjoyed this story. Let's look at the extended universe.
Yeah.
So it's a deeper dive into the story, into the universe, into everything.
A series that has a very interesting and thriving, or well, used to be more thriving, mythos is the Star Wars universe, because everybody had free reign to make
And
their
it's
own
all now
stories.
gone thanks to fucking Disney.
But you can still read the books and enjoy them. It's just not canon.
Yeah.
They're just
So what's the
legends and
point?
stories. Because, I mean,
It's a story to enjoy a
needs to
story.
be real.
yes, I'm sorry that Star Wars isn't real. You know what is funny though is that Harry Potter is a giant thing that's affected our culture too. That's another series, and it's something I was never allowed to interact with. I've seen the first two movies, then my mom was like, "This is witchcraft. It's evil." And then I saw the last two movies with my dad. And what was funny was, so I was never allowed to read any of them or anything. And then a couple of years ago, my mom's like, "Oh my God, I just got into the Harry Potter books. They're amazing. Why haven't you guys read these?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, why?"
Oh my god.
Exactly, you said that she was using real witch spells, so it was evil. But so, it's funny how missing out on something like that affects the culture, it's like, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm not really... Because it is, like, so many people love these books.
So I can kind of relate because I never got into the Star Wars prequels when they were coming out. It was after the fact that I kind of started watching it, so yeah, I can get that.
You were going to say something earlier.
Oh, it was about Harry Potter and the spells. I was gonna say, for the most part, they used their spells for good because the main focus was on these kid wizard and witches.
Witchcraft. The Bible says witchcraft.
I'm sorry, but it's very unrealistic because no spell had anything to do with sex or
sacrificing a chicken.
or I mean, they're teenagers. Come on.
They wouldn't.
I mean, literally the first spell that they used to put a sound to was Oculus Reparo, and it fixed his glasses. That's terrible. How dare you help other people?
I'm sorry, but I can now feel the demons that just entered this room from you saying that. That's what happened in my household.
You really think they didn't touch on sex at all with Polyjuice Potion being a thing?
I know they didn't mention anything with it though.
The thing is, like, you can draw the conclusion.
No, they needed to make conclusion.
I wanted Harry Potter sex, goddammit!
At that point, you couldn't sell the books.
I know. I understand why they didn't do it, but I just feel like it's not realistic.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few other things that make it a little less realistic as well, but...
Yeah.
I mean, almost all of
Yeah.
it.
No.
Considering, Hogwarts.
We'll take you to King's Cross Station in London, and you can go run through
You first. I will follow.
platforms 3 and 4.
I think the moral of the story of literature comes down to the fact that no matter what age or era we're in, whether we're talking religious texts or just stories, for some reason, written word has such an ability to affect our culture and what we think and our hero myths. Like, it is such an incredible medium that it can literally take somebody's creative genius and give it to the world. And I think that is incredibly important for us as humans to be able to hear those stories from other people.
So here, just to put a modern aspect on it, right? So how is it that we can take these stories, right, and we read them and we take them in and we're like, holy shit, that's interesting. But when it comes to stuff like politics and like laws being written and people are like, no, don't need to.
Have you ever tried to read a law?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
They are. Really
I mean,
bad.
because it's.
Yes.
But it's still written by a bunch of old dudes.
Yeah.
So
Shoved down our throats.
Part of the reason laws are written in that language is to take out any interpretation.
Yeah.
It's meant in a way that it's literal.
So basically the general gist of it is like to make it the least imaginative as possible.
Exactly.
For the sake of, okay, I'm
Fairness,
telling you
yes.
that this is what
Because otherwise you'd have people ripping bears.
Well, yeah. Well,
arms
this
off
isn't.
and-
This isn't. I just should make this one. This isn't for me. This is for people
It's
watching.
not for you. I think it's true.
I don't understand the difference. But, you know what I'm saying? So maybe somebody would be like, yeah, why is it like that? And then we just explain it to them. Like, yeah, because it's boring as shit. Because there's not supposed to be any imagination
Right.
along
Yeah.
with it.
It's meant to be deterministic. It's
Yeah.
like there is no leeway there. Like
You
in a
have
book,
the
you read
right
the book.
to bear arms. You just can't steal that bear's arms.
Well, here's my question. Do you think it was originally created to be that? Because if you actually look at the Constitution and stuff, I don't feel like they were so concerned with the literal... They're like, no, we just want to outline the rights that you guys have as a people, and we want to kind of protect
Yeah, because
those.
people seem to skip over the part that, what is it? We, the people of the United States of America, you know, are determined, created equal.
Mhm.
And people seem to skip over that important, you know, everyone's equal.
Yeah.
It's not
Yes.
convenient. We
Emotional.
skip things that aren't convenient.
Well, you know what's funny, though, is, I mean, it starts like that, and then within a couple of paragraphs,
It's like,
it talks about...
so, slaves have to be returned to their owners.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, and even that they're 3/5 of a person, you know, like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily that has been stricken from the record, but
Yeah.
still, it is
Kinda.
difficult to read that document knowing where we came from, but at the same time, it's important because you have to be able to recognize the difference between what it was and where we are today. Because there was a level of, like, and back then you wouldn't even consider it racism. It was just we're superior. Like they literally treated another race as cattle. And so it's like, yeah, you know what? That is terrible. And yes, there is racism today, but we need to look at the progress that we've made between those 2 points and continue to progress, yes. But I think there does need to be something said that we have progressed some, and some less than others. And I think everybody, like our document says, everybody should just be viewed as equal.
Which means all literature is equal.
No, absolutely not. There's some really dumb literature out there.
So, final
Take it
thoughts.
I didn't get to talk about Name of the Wind. That's okay. You should just, you know,
What's the name in the wind?
it's part of the King Killer Chronicles.
Gotcha.
Don't worry about
But
it.
you brought it up.
So read it.
You
So
got
read
to
it.
talk about it.
No, read it. Expose yourself to a lot of different types of media. Literature's a great place. You could listen to ebooks, so you don't even have to straighten your
Yes.
eyes reading anymore.
Yes.
And see what fits for you. You can definitely find something.
Yes. I think my final thought is, like you said, ebooks are a giant thing. Like, you can just listen to the books now. And really, if you're trying to culture yourself, try and go further back in time and read that literature so you can get a grasp of where we came from as a society. Because I think that is such a thing that is missing within our culture, because we do like to read these fantasy stories and all these different things. But we need to be able to figure out where we came from so that we can see the spots where we're weakest and continue to progress them.
Go ahead.
To quote Family Guy, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Oh my
So whether you think that you can't get into a classical literature or whatever, you're right, because it's not for everyone. Whether you think you can get into short stories, all right, well then it's for you. So you just, like Skylar said, you just gotta find, just dive into the world of literature and just sample everything, because a lot of this stuff has, like Ben said before, is what's really progressed us
Yes.
and what's educated us somewhat. So, just keep doing what you
You'll
gotta
find something you like. We promise.
Or you might find garbage too. It's a lot of furry porn on there.
Hey, you know what? Some people like furry porn, okay?
Are you one of those?
I'm not against it necessarily, especially if it's well drawn.
Well, he did read Twilight, so
That's right.
Yeah, you know.
Oh boy. Yeah. And that's how you society. Literature.
excuse me.
Turn the camera off. What are you doing? You know your job.
Action.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed the conversation, come and meet us again, and like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment. We really want to hear about your feedback, and hit that little bell for us, and you can get updates every Friday for when we put out a new video.